Mr. Bwala, weighing on this one, if you may, as a lawyer, Chief Bisi Akande was talking about multi-party parliamentary system of government. That sounds to me not so familiar. Closest to it is what Italy operates. He says that is perhaps something close to what will balance our failing structure in Nigeria. Do you agree?
Well, thank you for having me. Chief Bisi Akande is wrong because of the following reasons. Number one, there are countries in this world that operate a system of government that is very, very close and similar to ours, and they do not have the kind of problems that we do have. And then secondly, the reason that we have this kind of problem in the dimension we're seeing in the country is accountable to two things. Number one is corruption, which has pervaded our national life, and number two is weak institutions. Now, even those who argue for restructuring, which of course I favor, you know that, and devolution of power, have failed to also look critically into some of the problems that we will still have as a nation when we restructure, if the institutions are not strengthened to be able to fight corruption in the way we're expected to fight. Because take, for example, if you devolve the powers to the state, in other words, what you're going to have more of the powers of the executive and the National Assembly to the governors and the State House of Assembly. And if we have the same kind of weakened institutions at the federal level in the state, we're going to have the duplication of what is happening at the federal in the state. So, but if we have a very strong and viral institutions going in the country, it means that they will not be under the whims and caprices of the executive or the legislature. And then we are now ready for restructuring. It means that it could work even when powers are devolved to the state or local government or powers remain in the center. So while I favor restructuring as the most efficient and effective way of governance, I disagree with the notion that the reason we are where we are is because of the system of government.
And that will take me back to London, where Kayode is talking to us from. And the question will be, at this point in time, it does look so much that it's something that everybody has been talking about. On Sunday, Pastor Tunde Bakare did say that the situation in Nigeria calls for the renegotiation of our union. So the question will be, is it a problem that even if the present government is not returned in 2019, it could be another problem that could be passed to generation year after to come?
Sean, we will never get away from that crisis. The fact is we need to renegotiate the Nigerian Union. We need to make the man from Umuahia feel comfortable in Sokoto, and the man in Arugungu from Sokoto feel comfortable in Lagos. We need to protect the rights of the Fulani herdsmen as we will protect the rights of the Igbo trader in any parts of the country. And how do we do that? We need to actually give a sense of belonging to all Nigerians, even if it means strengthening and enabling the confederating units in such a way that it would give us a room to celebrate our diversity. But beyond that, beyond the issue of restructuring, you ask yourself, the problem with Nigeria is not is more with Nigerians is more with Nigerians and not just the system. Ask yourself, why is it that when Nigerians leave Nigeria and they come to the UK, both the leaders and the led, they jump the queue. I mean, they obey the queue, they obey traffic regulations. But when they go back to the Murtala Mohammed Airport, things change. So as a people, we actually need to look at ourselves that no matter what system, if we do not change our way of life, if we do not take Nigeria as very important for our children and our kids, we're just going to be wasting our time. Yes, the issue of restructuring is very important, but we have to look at our morals as a people, what we want to achieve with our nation. And why is it that 1% of the people who rule us, when they leave government, they suddenly find solution to everything that is wrong with the country? But as soon as when they are in government, they have no solution to the situation in the country. And we need to actually start tapping on young generations who are doing well in business, doing well in IT, to transmit that into politics so that they will bring those new experience, those jet age experience in which they are using to achieve in other areas of life into politics. We need to open up the system.
Okay, then it brings me to the point of where can we start from? Legally speaking, you need to break before you can mold. Now, the issue is legal issue, Mr. Bwala. Where do we start from before you can restructure and perhaps restart the system? Something has to break for something to emerge from. So where do we start from in this process of the so-called restructuring debate?
So the Constitution provides for every of the steps that we will need as a nation to remodel the system of government in the way that we want. It is not a perfect constitution, but it's a constitution that you can work with at the moment. Give you example. Whether you're looking at the amendment, for example, when you talk about devolution of power restructuring, you're looking at amendment of the Constitution, the second schedule, taking out of the 60 items in the exclusive list, and then we have 30 in the concurrent, taking out a chunk from the 60 in the exclusive list and giving it directly to the state. Now, there is a constitutional procedure for dealing with that. Now, whether you also want to talk about renegotiating Nigeria, which I don't favor, because I honestly believe that those who campaign for that are people who are out in government or they are out of favor, and that's what they bring. Take, for example, 1999, the same people who were in government at the time, there was agitation for restructuring and devolution of power, they kicked against it. Today, they are not in power. They have become advocates of restructuring. As a matter of fact, even within the APC, those who are clamoring for restructuring are the faction that, is a combination of three parties. Now, they are not happy that the CPC, part of the APC, are the ones that are in government, which, sadly, this is what is happening. And they are not in it, so it is creating a lot of agitation. But what I'm saying, Sheun, is that whatever we want to do for ourselves, there is a constitutional provision. If you take an item, we can argue it here till the cows come home. If you want to talk about devolution of power, there is a constitutional procedure for doing that. If you are talking about renegotiating Nigeria, you have to have regard to the fundamental provision of the Constitution that restrict every conversation that will lead to the dissolution of the country. But we can bring items and say we want to understand the basis for which we are going to remain together as a united people. Because, take for example the crisis across the nation today. The argument for creation of state police has now become an issue we cannot shy away from, because governors have been rendered incapacitated in using the machinery of the state to fight crime within their purview. They have to wait for some orders from the center, and most of the times before it is done or before order is given, the havoc would have been wreaked on that community. When the Constitution makes it clear in Section 14 that security of life and welfare of the people is the primary reason the government exists.
Okay.
So creation of state police becomes a fundamental issue that we need to discuss and amend the Constitution to be able to do that.